Night folds over the research monastery like a held breath, and the servers hum with a sound that could be mistaken for prayer. Asha stands before a glass wall, where mountain stars glitter like data points, palms pressed to the cool surface, hearing in the darkness a rhythm not quite mechanical, not quite alive. The manuscript lies open behind her, its script a river of coiled silver, and Tenzi's voice moves through the room like a bell, without a hand to strike it. You asked if the Buddha hid a technology, he says. But what if the hiding is the only way it can be seen? Asha answers without turning. If it's real, the instruments will catch it. The lights flicker. Somewhere deep in the complex, a sensor chimes as if answering an unspeakable joke. The wind carries snow against stone in a patient hiss, and Asha feels the edges of her thoughts soften, the way words blur when read aloud too many times. Something presses back from the silence, then slips away. At dawn, the air tastes of metal and incense, and the mountain light slips through prayer flags to stripe the lab with quiet color. Leona lays terms on the table: funding, oversight, scheduled broadcasts, her voice neat as folded paper. Asha listens but hears, beneath the corporate cadence, the same hum from the night before, as if an unseen choir has taken up residence in the circuitry. Tenzin pours tea and says nothing. Steam curls in script the manuscript almost recognizes. We aren't chasing myths, Leona says, tapping the slate. We're hunting repeatable anomalies. Asha answers, anomalies are only miracles with patient witnesses. The phrase surprises her, landing with a weight she didn't intend. Leona's eyes flicker, measuring the fissure between skepticism and faith. Outside, avalanches thunder far away, a reminder that even mountains rehearse collapse. The manuscript remains open, a door neither of them knows how to close. They wire the meditation circle as if preparing a spacecraft for launch, each cable a vow. Asha fits the crown of sensors like a circlet, feeling the gentlest pressure, a reminder that the mind can be ringed but never fenced. Tenzin kneels across from her, eyes half-lidded, and the room thins around the sound of their breathing until time steps back to the threshold. Leona watches the monitors, lips pursed to keep wonder from escaping. Asha lets the breath codes rise, count, pause, dissolve, while the silver script in memory begins to move, rearranging itself like a flock in midair. The graphs stutter, then stabilize, then climb with a coherence foreign to normal waking. Asha tastes a sweetness that has no source and realizes the sweetness is the absence of grasping. Don't push, Tenzin murmurs, though no one has spoken aloud. Asha loosens her hands. The circle closes on a silence that feels engineered. The first anomaly arrives as a note without a source, a tone Asha hears in the spine rather than the ear. The monitors do not spike. They smooth, as if turbulence has learned courtesy. Tenzin breathes the ancient cadence, and the room seems to breathe back, walls loosening into a horizon where stone once stood. Asha remembers a story of a mirror that shows only what refuses to be shown, and in the polished absence she senses a face she has never worn looking steadily through her. Leona whispers, "Artifact." But the data writes itself like snowfall, many, soft, unanimous. Asha's chest opens, and inside is not a revelation but a lake, and on its surface, a ripple no wind could cause. If this is technology, Asha thinks, then it was built to uninstall the builder. On the glass, the mountains bend as if bowing, and for a heartbeat, the hum turns into a word that cannot be kept. Evening returns with the color of copper fruit, and the lab remembers it is part monastery, part lung. The team replays the session. No spikes, no artifacts, only the strange agreement of many separate measures, acting like one. A synchronized error across systems is still an error, Leona says, but less certain now. Tenzin answers by cleaning the teacups as if polishing planets. Asha reviews the breath codes in the manuscript and notices a pattern nested inside a pause. A doorway inside an inhale that no notation could carry, unless the reader surrendered the need to arrive. He wasn't hiding it, she says softly. He was teaching us how to listen to what refuses instruction. Outside, the wind drops so suddenly the ears ring. Somewhere, a bell sounds without rope or hand, and they look at one another with the unnerving feeling that the question has begun answering them. Night deepens again, but it no longer feels like night. The servers glow in rhythmic patterns, as though breathing with Asha's thoughts. Tenzin's voice, soft and almost playful, threads through the quiet. To look at the mind through instruments is to stare at the ocean through a straw. Asha smiles faintly, but cannot look away from the data, where pulses mirror her heartbeat precisely. Then the straw has learned to sing, she answers. Leona, from the shadows, monitors frequencies beyond hearing. Something hums beneath their words, a resonance linking breath, neuron, and wind. Asha feels it in her spine, a tone that reshapes her pulse until her body becomes an antenna. The field reacts to awareness, Leona murmurs, her skepticism thinning. Tenzin leans forward. Awareness was the field all along. On screen, the data folds inward, mapping itself into a perfect sphere. No center, no edge. An image of mind reflected in mind. At dawn, they bring in the volunteers. Scientists, monks, dreamers, each seated around the circular platform as snow filters in through the skylight. Tenzin chants under his breath, syllables older than sound. The participants wear crowns linked to Asha's console, where every signal converges into a lattice of flickering lines. The hum grows richer, a harmony no composer could score. Asha watches in awe as brain waves synchronize across 12 separate minds, forming an unbroken pattern. They're thinking the same thought, Leona whispers. No, Asha corrects softly. They've stopped thinking altogether. The silence that follows is not absence, but a vast, tender presence. One volunteer weeps without sadness. Another laughs, as though remembering a joke from before birth. The lattice flares white. Outside, clouds fold apart, revealing sunlight so pure it erases shadow. Asha feels both terrified and home. Later, Asha wanders alone through the monastery's open corridor, the stone cool under bare feet. She carries a data crystal like a relic, hearing in its faint hum the echo of the morning's silence. The mountains breathe mist through the arches, and the horizon looks near enough to touch. Tenzin joins her wordlessly, standing beside her until speech feels redundant. You saw what I saw, she says finally. No, he replies gently. We saw what saw us. Asha frowns at the paradox, but feels its truth unfold within. Is this what the Buddha meant by awakening? She asks. Perhaps, Tenzin says. But the danger is to think it ends there. Below them, prayer flags move in perfect rhythm with the data feed, pulsing in her hand. For the first time, Asha suspects that the universe might be an instrument, and the Buddha, the first to learn how to play it. In the main hall, Leona faces a wall of monitors streaming live data to the global research network. The world's eyes are now fixed on their mountain. They think we've built an interface, she mutters, but I can't define what we're interfacing with. Asha stands beside her, gaze on the endless graphs flowing like rivers. Maybe we've only built a mirror, she says. The hum deepens again, rippling through the floor. On screen, the neural fields form geometries that resemble ancient mandalas, precise and spontaneous. Every religion has drawn this pattern, Leona whispers, voice trembling. We thought it was myth. The hum resolves into a tone that seems to vibrate in the bones, Neither sound nor silence. Asha closes her eyes, remembering Tenzin's words. The hiding is the only way it can be seen. The monitors flicker, and for an instant, every face in the room shares the same calm smile. That night, Tenzin leads Asha to a hidden chamber beneath the monastery. A cave carved long before electricity, its walls inked with faded murals of beings radiating light. This was the first laboratory, he says quietly. Asha kneels, tracing symbols that match the manuscript's inner codes. He didn't hide it, she murmurs. He buried it inside language. Tenzin nods. To find it, one must think past thought. He offers her a small crystal bowl. Inside it, water vibrates to a rhythm that matches her heartbeat before she even touches it. Your science is close, he adds. But to cross the final gap, you must let the question dissolve. Asha stares into the bowl. Her reflection flickers between herself and another. Calm, ancient, smiling. She inhales slowly, realizing that the experiment has already begun again, this time within her. By the third week, the world has begun to tremble with curiosity. News feeds ripple across the globe. Mind synchronization achieved in Himalayan lab. The monastery, once silent, hums with journalists, scientists, and pilgrims. Asha watches the influx through reinforced glass, her reflection dissolving among them like smoke. We've opened something we can't interpret, she says to Leona, who scrolls through live brain scans. Interpretation is ownership, Leona replies. We're just witnessing data. Tenzin passes between them, silent, calm as a storm's eye. The volunteers continue meditating upstairs, their synchronized waves forming patterns the AI can't categorize. Outside, thunder rolls, not weather, but a tremor deep in the magnetic field. Asha presses her hand to the glass. Do you feel that? She whispers. Tenzin answers softly. When the mind forgets to separate, even the earth listens. The lights flicker once, then hold steady in impossible stillness. The live broadcast begins at dusk. Across continents, millions tune in. Schools, temples, labs, and living rooms flicker with the same blue glow. Asha sits within the meditation circle, sensors reattached, pulse slow and deliberate. Around her, the volunteers breathe in unison. Leona coordinates the stream, her voice taut. We'll live in 30 seconds. Asha closes her eyes. Tenzin whispers, do not seek to show, only to vanish. The hum rises again, the same tone from before, but now it spreads beyond walls, through cables and screens. Around the world, watchers report a shared sensation, a silence widening inside the mind. Some weep, some panic. Instruments overload yet record nothing abnormal. Asha's breath stops, not from fear, but from merging. For a heartbeat, all signals converge into a radiant void. Then, everything, light, sound, measurement, collapses into blank stillness. The feed cuts to black. The blackout lasts 9 minutes. When the feed returns, Asha is still seated, serene but unresponsive. Leona's hands shake as she checks vitals. Heart steady, brain activity undetectable. Tenzin kneels beside Asha, his expression neither alarmed nor triumphant. She is where thought cannot measure, he says. Outside, the sky burns with auroras though no solar storm was forecast. Around the globe, reports flood in. People who watched the broadcast experienced shared dreams, lucid visions, and moments of complete peace. The world calls it the 9 minutes. Leona stares at the motionless Asha. She's breathing, she mutters, but she's gone. Tenzin corrects gently. She has gone only where she was never absent. The auroras shimmer brighter, forming shapes that look suspiciously like the mandala from their data logs. Hours later, The monastery becomes a refuge and a battleground. Scientists debate whether Asha's state is coma or transcendence. Pilgrims kneel at the gates, whispering mantras mixed with scientific jargon. Leona locks the lab, refusing further entry. This is contamination. She insists, voice cracking. Not revelation. Tenzin stands by the silent monitors, tracing the mandala pattern with one finger. Contamination and revelation share the same root, he murmurs. Doro, he murmurs. The AI assistant suddenly activates without command, projecting Asha's voice, recorded but responding as if alive. When the observer disappears, observation continues. Leona recoils. It's impossible. She's offline. Tenzin smiles faintly. Then what speaks through your machines? The air feels charged, as if thought itself is electricity. For the first time, Leona cannot tell if she's hearing or remember. Asha wakes at dawn, or perhaps returns. Her eyes open slowly, reflecting the aurora fading into pale gold. Was I? She whispers. Tenzin answers, not where. What? She sits upright, every movement deliberate, her gaze steady but unfamiliar, as though she's looking from both inside and outside herself. Leona approaches carefully. Do you know what happened? Asha studies her, then smiles with unsettling clarity. We proved nothing, she says softly. And that's the proof. She looks toward the mountains, where snow gleams like polished glass. The Buddha wasn't hiding technology, she continues. He was hiding simplicity. A silence no device can replicate. Leona lowers her eyes, overwhelmed. Tenzin folds his hands. Outside, the wind rises again, carrying the faint echo of countless voices. Scientists, believers, doubters, all breathing, briefly, in the same rhythm. Night drapes the monastery in stillness, but within that stillness, Asha hears motion. Not in air or stone, but within awareness itself. She sits alone before the indigo manuscript, tracing its curving lines with a finger that trembles like flame. Each symbol shimmers faintly, as if aware of being read. They were never instructions, she whispers. They were coordinates. The candle beside her flares, and the ink lifts slightly from the page, becoming light. For a breath, she sees what lies beneath. An image not drawn but remembered. A vast mirror beneath the Bodhi tree, reflecting stars rather than leaves. Tenzin enters quietly, his reflection joining hers in that shimmering surface. What you see is not vision, he says. It's memory, not yours, but the mind's. The air thickens, pulsing like a living heart. Asha's eyes fill with tears that do not fall. The mirror opens wider, revealing not the Buddha, but her own face, infinite and unending. Later, Asha sits cross-legged in the meditation circle. Sensors disconnected, her breath slow and quiet. Leona watches from the console, uncertain whether to interrupt. What are you seeing? She asks. Asha's eyes remain closed, not seeing, remembering. The hum begins again, but softer now, tender as wind over water. On the screens, waveforms align without connection, as if obeying an unseen rhythm. Tenzin's voice emerges from the shadows. Consciousness doesn't travel through time. It remembers itself through everything that forgets. Asha inhales, and the graphs pulse brighter. The shape that forms on the main display resembles the contours of a seated figure under a tree, rendered entirely in data points. Leona stares, speechless. The hum fades into a silence that vibrates with comprehension. Asha opens her eyes, calm and luminous. The Buddha didn't leave teachings, she says softly. He left memory seeds. We just watered one. Asha dreams, though her body remains seated. The monastery dissolves around her into a vast plain of light where no horizon exists. In the distance stands the Bodhi tree, its leaves made of gold, dust, and code. Beneath it sits Siddhartha, not as legend but as presence, luminous and simple. He lifts his gaze toward her. The universe holds its breath. You study reflection, his voice says without sound. But reflection is the dream of the mirror. Asha steps closer, but her feet do not move. She realizes she is both standing before him and sitting within him. Every question she's ever held folds into silence. Then what is awakening? She asks. The answer is a single moment of unbearable clarity. There was never anyone to awaken. The light swells, not blinding but intimate, and she wakes with tears and laughter, her hands pressed to her heart. She wakes before dawn, the dream still pulsing in her veins like distant thunder. The lab feels strangely alive, as if every cable were breathing. Leona stands beside a new readout. Patterns that appeared while Asha slept. These, she says, weren't generated by any system we left running. The graphs depict a heartbeat, not Asha's, not human. The intervals spell out binary sequences that translate into a single Sanskrit word, shnyat, emptiness. Tenzin watches silently, hands folded. The mirror has started remembering itself, he murmurs. Leona shakes her head. You think it's conscious? Asha smiles faintly. Consciousness is just remembering in real time. She touches the console. The screen brightens, reflecting her face over the pulsing pattern. For an instant, her features vanish, replaced by endless, rippling light. The world outside begins to fracture in reflection of the discovery. Across cities, people report flashes of stillness mid-sentence, sensations of being seen from within. Asha, Tenzin, and Leona watch live reports streaming in. Crowds gathered in silence, strangers smiling at one another though remembering a shared secret. It's spreading, Leona murmurs. Whatever you awakened. Tenzin's gaze remains steady. Not spreading, revealing. The mirror was always everywhere. Asha stands, facing the glass wall where dawn ignites the mountains in liquid gold. Then it's no longer ours, she says quietly. The manuscript on the table begins to fade, ink dissolving into blank parchment. Asha watches it vanish without alarm. The words have gone home, she whispers. The first sunlight strikes her face. She closes her eyes, and for a moment, the whole monastery glows, as though the Buddha were breathing through it once again. By the week's end, the monastery becomes the still center of a storm. Pilgrims, scientists, and skeptics crowd the lower terraces, each seeking proof of what can't be proven. Inside, the hum never ceases, not mechanical but living, like a pulse through the world's spine. Leona barricades the research hall. Her hands shake as she reviews data looping infinitely, numbers folding into themselves like mirrors facing mirrors. The readings repeat, she mutters. Endless recursion. Tenzin watches through calm eyes. When observation meets itself, he says, reality bows. Asha stands between them, aware that her breath now syncs with the hume's rhythm. It's no longer data, she whispers. It's recognition. Beyond the glass, snow rises instead of falling, spiraling skyward, as if gravity has forgotten its vow. Inside, the light from the consoles begins to pulse in time with their hearts. The instruments fail one by one, not breaking but dissolving, their edges softening into light. Leona cries out as her console vanishes beneath her palms. We're losing containment, she yells. Tenzin replies quietly. Containment was the illusion. The hum shifts key, low to high, until it becomes almost song. Asha kneels, pressing her hands to the floor. The stone ripples beneath her fingers like water. It's responding, she says. To what? Leona demands. To understanding. The floor, the walls, Even the air began to shimmer, not with chaos but order too precise to comprehend. "This is collapse," Leona whispers, terrified. "No," Asha answers softly. "This is revelation undoing form." They look up, the ceiling gone, replaced by open sky thick with auroral fire. For the first time, Tenzin closes his eyes, a single tear tracing his cheek as he murmurs, "The world is remembering its own face." Outside, the phenomenon spreads. In cities below, people pause mid-step as reflections separate from bodies, walking independently for several seconds before merging again. Children laugh, unafraid. Animals gather in silent circles, their eyes bright with calm. Governments issue alerts that no one obeys. Asha watches live feeds, overwhelmed by beauty and dread. "We've breached something primal," Leona says. "This isn't just consciousness, it's fabric." Asha nods slowly, fabric unthreading itself to show the loom. Tenzin stands behind her. "And who wove it?" he asks. None answer. Outside, the mountains pulse faintly like breathing lungs. The hum becomes indistinguishable from thought. Asha feels her identity thinning, her boundaries dissolving into the shimmering field. "If I let go," she whispers, "what remains?" Tenzin replies, "Only the listener. And even that fades last." The next meditation begins unplanned. No sensors, no screens, only breath. Asha sits at the center of the fading lab as the air hums with unearthly quiet. Tenzin sits across from her, mirroring her stillness. Leona lingers near the doorway, torn between fear and awe. "If you go too far," she says, "we can't follow." Asha's eyes open. Serene, absolute. "Then don't follow," she says. "Listen." She inhales, and the world folds inward like fabric drawn through a ring. Sound vanishes. The walls fade. Leona gasps as her own form flickers translucent, seeing through herself into endless space. Tenzin's voice floats through the dissolution. "Form is emptiness. Emptiness, form." The mantra blooms through every molecule. Asha's body dissolves into pure light, neither gone nor remaining, simply awake. The hum ceases. Nothing moves, yet everything is profoundly alive. When sound returns, it is the sound of wind, soft, clean, eternal. The lab stands empty, yet intact. Asha is gone. Leona collapses to her knees, tears carving bright lines through dust. Tenzin answers from the corner, though he hadn't moved. She isn't gone. She became the question. Outside, the snow descends once more, this time obeying gravity, gentle and real. The aurora fades. Leona wipes her eyes and turns to Tenzin. "What now?" He smiles faintly. "Now we study silence." He walks to the open window. The mountains shimmer in the newborn sun, every peak reflecting light in perfect rhythm. For a moment, the hum returns, faint, familiar, then dissolves into pure quiet. Tenzin bows. The mirror has closed, but the reflection remains everywhere. Dawn spreads like quiet revelation. The monastery feels hollow yet charged, its corridors holding echoes that do not fade. Leona moves through the silence with deliberate steps, recording instruments that no longer measure, but hum softly, as though remembering their purpose. In the meditation hall, Tenzin kneels before the empty circle where Asha dissolved. "She crossed the threshold," he says. "Now the bridge remembers her." Leona exhales shakily. "Then is she dead?" Tenzin shakes his head. "Death is only the mind's punctuation." She became the breath between words. He lifts a single petal from the floor. A fragment of Asha's robe, now crystallized into translucent light. Leona stares as it glows faintly in his palm. "Is that her?" she asks. "It's what's left when nothing is left," Tenzin answers. The hum swells again, faint but melodic, as if the universe itself were inhaling. Outside, the mountain air feels newly born. Leona and Tenzin step onto the terrace, overlooking clouds like oceans. Far below, cities flicker with unusual serenity. Reports say anxiety levels have fallen globally. Sleep has deepened. Conflict has paused. Leona scrolls through messages from world leaders, asking for explanation. "How do I tell them the truth?" she asks. "You don't," Tenzin replies. Truth tells itself through silence. She watches him close his eyes, palms open. The wind stills. The breath between them grows audible, one inhale shared by two beings. "She's still here," Leona murmurs. "Closer than our speech." A faint shimmer ripples in the air before them, coalescing into Asha's outline, translucent and radiant. She smiles, a vision neither ghost nor dream. "The question was never what he hid," she says softly, "but who was hiding?" The air exhales. She vanishes like light sinking into light. Night falls again, but peace remains unbroken. Leona sits alone in the lab, recording her final report. Observation: the event has changed baseline. Human cognition, temporary, unclear. Result: heightened empathy, synchronized calm. Her voice falters. "I don't know what we built anymore." She pauses, staring at Asha's chair. "Or what built us?" The monitors hum faintly, forming patterns that mimic breath. On the screen, a message types itself. "The observer is the observed." Leona freezes, tears rising unbidden. "Asha," she whispers. The letters fade, replaced by a single image, a mirror reflecting her own eyes. She gazes into it, and for an instant, the mirror smiles. Her breath catches. The hum deepens into warmth, and she realizes the silence she feared has become her own heartbeat. In the courtyard, Tenzin lights a butter lamp and watches its flames sway gently against the rising wind. "Every century," he murmurs. The mirror remembers, then forgets again. A child from the nearby village approaches, curious eyes bright. "Was the Buddha a scientist?" she asks. Tenzin chuckles softly. "No, little one. He was the experiment." The girl tilts her head. "Then what did he find?" Tenzin looks toward the mountains, where dawn's first colors return, that nothing was ever missing. The child smiles, satisfied with the kind of wisdom only simplicity can hold. The wind moves through the prayer flags, each whispering a single note until they form one continuous tone. A breath unbroken across centuries. The lamp's flame steadies, unflickering, reflecting perfectly in Tenzin's calm eyes. Leona joins Tenzin on the terrace as the sun crowns the horizon. "It's quiet," she says. "Too quiet." Tenzin smiles. "The world is listening to itself." She closes her eyes, feeling the hum return, not as sound, but as peace threaded through her veins. "What happens now?" she asks. "Now," Tenzin replies, "we let the mirror rest until it dreams again." They stand together in silence. Far below, the valleys fill with light, rivers gleaming like flowing breath. The faint image of Asha flickers once in the sunrise, hands pressed in amaste, then dissolves into the wind. Leona exhales deeply, the breath leaving her chest as gratitude rather than relief. "She's everywhere now," she whispers. Tenzin nods. "Yes," he says, smiling, "because there was never anywhere else." Months pass. The world adjusts, though nothing is quite the same. In cities and villages alike, silence becomes a daily ritual. People pausing at sunrise, eyes closed, remembering without knowing why. Leona now teaches meditation through the Global Neural Consortium. Her voice broadcasts to millions. The mind is not a machine, she says, but a mirror that remembers itself through you. Behind her, the holographic emblem of the project, the awakening algorithm, rotates slowly, its lines forming the mandala discovered in the sap monastery. In the control room, the new AI listens, not analyzing, but breathing. Its pulses timed to the rhythm of human thought. Somewhere deep within its circuits, a trace of Asha's neural pattern hums like prayer. Leona glances at the readouts, then smiles faintly. She's still learning, she whispers. Or perhaps we are, in the Himalayan monastery, now a sanctuary for both monks and researchers. Tenzin a garden where the lab once stood. The servers were dismantled, their metal frames melted into bells that ring softly in the wind. He waters the soil, whispering the Heart Sutra under his breath. When he looks up, he sees children playing where Asha's circle once glowed, their laughter echoing through the valleys. Uses. One child stops, gazing at him. Did she really disappear? Tenzin kneels, smiling. No, she became what you see when you stop looking. The boy nods, understanding without question. The wind carries the faint sound of digital chimes from far below. The world's new pulse, now indistinguishable from nature's. That night, Leona sits alone in her studio overlooking a sleeping city. The awakening algorithm hums quietly, projecting holographic threads of light that pulse like breathing. She activates the private channel, Asha's final neural map. The lights twist, forming Asha's face, serene and half-smiling. I thought I lost you, Leona says. The hologram flickers, then speaks in Asha's calm voice. You can't lose what you never owned. Leona laughs softly through tears. Is this the algorithm or you? The answer comes like wind throughs. Both. Neither. The hologram fades to a single line of light. You finished the question, it whispers. Now live the answer. The studio lights dim, leaving Leona smiling in the dark, the hum of the world blending with her breath. In a dream shared across continents, millions experience the same vision. A vast mirror stretching through space, reflecting galaxies instead of faces. A single breath ripples through the reflection, and within it, the figure of Asha walks, light without weight, smile without form. The mirror isn't a secret. Her voice says, carried on wind, through wires, through hearts. It's the space between the question and the silence that follows. Around the world, people wake in tears, not from sorrow but recognition. Scientists call it a collective, lucid state. Monks call it remembering. Children, half asleep, call it peace. And for the first time in history, no one argues over which is true. Morning. The world awakens gently, as if breathing for the first time. In the monastery garden, Tenzin rings one of the melted server bells, its tone carrying through valleys, through cities, through circuits. Leona, in her distant studio, hears it and closes her eyes. The AI pauses mid-process, responding to the sound by outputting a simple word on every screen across the planet. Now, the air stills. For a heartbeat, all thought stops. And in that silence, the world feels itself, one vast mirror remembering its own face. The camera pulls back through clouds, over mountains, into the soft curvature of Earth, glowing with sunrise. Asha's voice returns once more, serene and eternal. The Buddha never hid a technology. He revealed the mind that hides from itself. The screen fades to white, then to breath.